And what a final that was. PSG 5, Inter Milan 0. I can't believe the absolute demolition I saw from PSG. And I thought it would be a much more even match. I thought that Inter Milan would be able to provide something difficult for PSG because they really focus in defence in Italy. And I thought that with the 3-5-2 system, it would be quite difficult for PSG just because it's been very difficult all season for teams to get past Inter Milan. Now, Inter Milan have had a bit of a tough time. They lost to Serie A to Napoli, and now in the Champions League, they've lost to PSG in the worst fashion possible. I thought from the start of the game, Inter Milan did not look like they were in the game at all. They could barely get the ball from the goalkeeper and just progress it up the pitch. They had no way to get it up to their strikers, and the only way that they could do that was by doing long balls. There was a period in the second half where they did manage to get a few chances here and there, but at the end of the day, if you don't take your chances, then you won't win. And it was very similar to the Arsenal game where Arsenal did have chances, but they weren't able to capitalize. And it was very similar for Inter Milan. I thought Marcus Thuram had a very key chance, but he missed it with his header. And I thought that throughout the game, even Barella, when Donnarumma was away from his line, Barella should have, I don't know, tried a long shot, aim at the goal. Maybe you could have done something, but it was one of those things where PSG were just too good. And I think that from Inter Milan's side, since they were a very aging team, you could say for a lot of these guys like Calhanoglu, Barella, a Kirby, and so many other players in that team, even a Mkhitaryan, there's going to be a lot of these players where you think you're not sure whether or not they'll get back to a Champions League final. And how is it the case where they've got to 2 Champions League finals in the last 3 years and they haven't been able to win one against Manchester City and PSG? And I thought that this year was the year that they were supposed to do it against PSG, because a lot of them saw PSG as a young team. A lot of them didn't give them too much of a chance this season, especially since Mbappe had left. And for PSG to go out there and do what they did, it's absolutely remarkable from their side, and credit to them and Luis Enrique. But on Inter Milan's side, I don't know if they're going to be able to get to this level again in the next coming of years because of their aging squad. And I think that's just the difference between the old guard and the new guard. I mean, Inter Milan and PSG are just so different. It's quite strange in terms of their tactics, in terms of the types of players they use. And I think a lot more people prefer watching PSG compared to Inter Milan just because PSG are more younger, youthful. The wingers that they have are absolutely dominant. And this is the thing, this is what happens when you take control of the transfer window and you find opportunities, and getting a player like Kvicha Kvaratskhelia into a team is a big plus. And look at what's happened. They got a player like that and they got over the line in the Champions League. And those are the sort of decisions you need to make in order to win, and not like Arsenal and just complain and talk about BS and not do anything as a result of it. But I thought from PSG's side, Desiree Doue, what a player that guy is. That guy looks like a younger version of Cristiano Ronaldo or something of that ilk. I'm not saying he's going to be like Ronaldo, but he just reminds me of him in some way. And to score 2 goals in the Champions League final at 19 years old, I think the sky's the limit for him. And I think he can do so much more in his career and his future. And just long may it continue, and hopefully he will progress. And the thing is that you got to give credit to Luis Ocampos for when PSG lost Mbappe, a lot of them thought they were going to be in a rebuild. They thought that was going to take years for them to get back into some sort of level to get to like the Champions League final or Champions League semi-final, because losing a player like that can be difficult for any team. But for them to invest in young players, for them to follow Luis Enrique's tactics to the T, follow everything that he says, and just go from there is remarkable. People like Navas, Doue, Barcola, I mean, Pacho, Mendes. I mean, there's so many young players in this PSG team, and you just think to yourself, how long can this team stick together and go on for? I mean, they can go on for the next 5 to 10 years if they're really lucky, and if they just stick together. You never know what they can do in that time. And overall, I think for the rest of the team, I thought that Donnarumma was Donnarumma. I thought that the star of the show was Desiree Doue. Dembele also managed to do quite well. It was unfortunate he wasn't able to get the goal, but Kvicha, although he had a quiet first half, he was able to get the goal himself. And Hakimi, the funniest thing is when he scored his goal, he did that celebration where he wanted to respect the other opposition and put his hands up. Even though he was at Inter Milan for 1 year, you can show that, I guess it's a bit of class in a way from Hakimi. So I guess credit to him from that side. And I think from Luis Enrique, and I think from Mbappe himself, for him to leave and go to Real Madrid and not even get to the semi-finals with Real Madrid, I think it's quite a bad thing for Mbappe, and I think he's going to be looking at that PSG side and just think, what if? And I think that creates a lot of question marks on Kylian Mbappe and on his legacy and why he isn't able to win the Champions League, and these guys are. But overall, I think as a final, I don't think I've seen a final as dominant as this in a very, very long time. And I think the one thing that I really liked about PSG was the fact that they overworked Inter Milan. They were better tactically, they outworked Inter Milan. They were getting after every second ball, no matter if it was to go outside the pitch or anything like that. They always kept fighting, and that was something that you really want to see from your team. And I think from PSG, and with what Luis Enrique was able to build, to go from Neymar, Messi and Mbappe, and to go to this new core, this new young core essentially of Desiree Doue, Dembele, Barcola and Kvicha Kvaratskhelia. I mean, the sky's the limit for these guys. And for Desiree Doue to move from Rennes to PSG and only cost around £40 million, I mean, Fabio Vieira went for £35 million, so just look at the difference. And oh god, if I go on to Arsenal's transfer policy, I'm just going to be absolutely annoyed. But yeah, that's what I thought of the final. I mean, 5-0 PSG. It's been a long time coming. The whole club have been begging for this Champions League, and they finally got it. And it's scary because you don't know what's going to happen next over the next coming seasons, because now PSG are going to be the favourites, especially with how young the team is and what we've seen the team can do. And from Arsenal to play PSG in the semi-finals, Arteta talked about fine margins, but I don't think there's that much fine margins. I just think PSG, with the players that they have and the flair that the wingers have especially, I just don't think that Arsenal have that sort of thing. Maybe from Bukayo Saka, but from the other wingers, definitely not. But yeah, that's what happens when you trust young wingers. And credit to that guy, Mayulu, that youngster who managed to score in the Champions League final. He's going to remember that for the rest of his life. But I think from Inter Milan, they just didn't look like they were in the game at all. And I just think a better game would have been if Barcelona managed to get through to the final instead. That would have been a more entertaining final, more end-to-end. To see Lamine Yamal in the final instead of this Inter Milan team, which was absolutely disappointing, just to put it in the nicest way. But yeah, other than that, Lincoln Park had a concert as well. And just as a side note, away from football, just to see Lincoln Park without Chester Bennington, I mean, it's very different. I don't think I'll get used to it, but when they played the classic songs, then you know, you can't help but be happy to see all of that. But yeah, that was something separate to the football. But yeah, that's what I thought about the PSG game. Let's see what happens. That's the end of the season, especially for club football. And now on to the transfer window and everything else. But yeah, congratulations PSG, congratulations Luis Enrique. And he talked about his daughter as well, which is very nice to see. And it's always a bit sad as well. But you know, I'm happy that Luis Enrique was able to win the Champions League with PSG. Bye-bye.